Okay, we're going to run through creating a series of AI IVR agents that can filter a whole bunch of inbound calls and then properly route to live agents based on multiple lines of questioning. And so the way you could do this is you could just create one campaign and ask really just one question, what are you calling about? And then you could properly route them to various departments, 6, 7, 8 different people, depending on what they say. That's a pretty simple one, and then you could just paste that number, which in this case is 848, Pitchit, which is basically 848-748-2448. And we've done that. So on our site, it says call 848 Pitchit. And if you do that, you're going to have a very simple AI agent that just asks one question. And then based on how I answer that as a caller, it's going to route me depending on my answers. But you can be more sophisticated. And so what we're going to talk about is making a more sophisticated type of routing where there's multiple lines of questioning before the caller is actually transferred to a human. And so in order to do that, you actually start at the final line of questioning, and then you work your way back up to that first line of questioning. And so what I'm going to do, instead of asking the first question, which is basically what are you calling about, we're going to ask the last question where I filter for a sales opportunity to see if they're an existing customer or not. So we're going to start by creating that low level one. I'm going to call this level 2. Are you existing customer, right? It's an IVR campaign, not a lead qualification campaign. We're actually trying to IVR route them. And the question I'm going to ask is, let's say the greeting should be, thank you for your patience. I have just one more question before transferring you to a live agent. Are you an existing customer? Cool. Move on. We're going to create a sample department, and then I'm going to create a second sample department. This just helps you because you have like most of the information filled out, and you can just edit it. So the first one's going to be, we'll call this not existing customer. And so this is basically a sales opportunity. They're not an existing customer, right? They've already been filtered, and they've made it to this final line of questioning, and maybe I only want non-existing customers to be routed to my live agents. So we're going to say, the customer, the description of this is, let's say assistance. No, let's say customer support for non-existing customers. So let's say support for non-existing customers. Assist callers who are not existing customers. That's the function. And the routing criteria is caller has identified themselves as not an existing customer. Cool. Now, the keywords are actually a simple yes or no because we asked them, are you an existing customer? And so in this case, the keyword would be no. And this is where we can put in where do you want them to go. So if they are not an existing customer and the first AI IVRs decided they're a sales op, we actually want them to go to this SIP URL. And so I'm going to paste this in. This is a SIP URL, so it's pushing the call through a SIP trunk. You don't have to do that option. If you don't have a SIP URL and you just have like a TFN or a DID number, right, you can just paste that number here and add a plus before it, so +1 833, and it's just going to forward them not using a SIP trunk. But if you do have a SIP trunk, you can put that URL in here, and it will transfer to that number through a SIP, okay? And so this is the one we have provisioned for sales opportunities. And then down in support, we're going to change this one to existing customer. So customer support and sales assistance for existing customers, right? Next one, assist existing customers with sales questions. And then the routing criteria is caller has identified themselves as an existing customer. So the main difference here is we're just looking for a simple true false. Are you a customer or are you not? And based on that answer, you'll be routed differently. And so at the end, this is again the lowest level, we're going to add a keyword for them being an existing customer. So they said yes to our question. And there at the end, they have a different SIP URL if they are a support opportunity. So I'm going to copy that one in and I'm going to put it here, right in there. And now you're done. So this is the lowest level. We have one more campaign to make, which is the top level, the first question someone asks. But by the time they make it down to this level, right, we've identified that we need to ask one more question. So we're going to ask that question with this AI agent. We're going to provision a number in this last step. So you click next step and you click provision phone number, and it's going to provision it out for you. This is basically the number that you will have the next campaign we're going to make route to. And I'll explain why you need both. I'm not going to turn on scheduling appointments. You can if you want, and in some call flows that might make sense, but in this particular call flow, we don't want to schedule appointments. We actually want to route live to a live agent, and so we're not going to turn that option on. But if you did, what would happen is before transferring the AI agent, it would ask those questions that we just came up with and then filter them based on the campaign agent step. But before transferring, it would say, would you like to talk to a live agent or would you like to schedule an appointment? And so I'm not going to turn this option on, and when it's not on, it doesn't offer the appointment, so it'll just say, would you like to talk to a live agent? Won't offer if you want to schedule. Once you're done and it's been provisioned, click Create Inbound Campaign. It'll create it, and it'll send you back to the dashboard. And so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this phone number down, and we're going to come back and create another campaign, which will actually be the top-level campaign that routes to the bottom-level campaign. So level 1, ISG, initial greeting, let's just call it. This is also an IVR, not lead qual. And our greeting is actually the first greeting you want to ask someone. So this is the number that you would actually put on your website where it asks, thanks for calling about Spectrum. This is Mary, an AI assistant, speaking on a recorded line. In a few words, can you please tell me what you're calling about, right? So that's the first question. It's very different than the one where we said, are you an existing customer, right? And that means that we need some proper IVR filtering here. And so I'm going to create a support department and I'm going to create a sales department. You could add more, so you can actually add like unlimited departments here if you want, but we only need 2 for this purpose. And so the sales opportunities are for, let's say, sales, support, and questions about pricing, right? The function is to assist callers with sales-related questions, pricing questions, and competitor comparisons. Maybe, who knows? The routing criteria is questions about product, pricing, and competitive landscape, right? Those are pretty common, like we can just call this like pre-sales questions about product pricing and competitive landscape. So that's what's different about the sales team than the support team. So the support, we're just going to use the out-of-the-box sample department. We're not going to change much about that. But in sales, I changed it so it's more of a sales-related criteria. Now, the other thing we need to change from what is created out of the box when you click to add a sample department is we need to get rid of these keywords and we need to replace them. And we're also going to remove the SIP URL and we're going to replace those too. So firstly, let's do support. I have a whole bunch of keywords that we've identified with our call center that are related to support that have a really low chance of making a sale. And so we don't want those people being routed as a sales opportunity. And so I'm going to copy all of those keywords and then one at a time I'm going to paste them in here. And I am not going to make you wait and watch this, so I'm going to speed up the camera while I complete all of these keywords being pasted in. Okay, I have all of the keywords now put in here. And so the way this generally works is it's going to use the function and routing criteria to provide context to the AI agent on what is the purpose of it existing. But we also have these little keyword helpers where if in the answer from the caller does pull on any of these keywords, that's further evidence that if it does fit into the context and it includes these keywords, then we definitely know 100% sure that it should be going to the support department, right? And so that's why we have all of these things combined to train the AI agent accordingly. Now, don't be afraid to make these long tail. So some of these are pretty long tail, like trying to pick up calls to our home line while we're on vacation. Maybe your team's identified that every single time that's said, it always leads to a support call. But you could also do something high level, like a single keyword, like the word refund. If that comes up anywhere, just send to support. And the reasoning behind that is that you might find that if someone says the word vacation, for example, that might not mean they want to talk to a support person. But if they say trying to pick up calls to a home line while on vacation, well, maybe that is a support only call. But under refund, anytime the word refund's used in any sentence or context, it's just always support. And so that's why we support both single keyword and these long tail keywords inside of your keywords tag. Next part, so we did create a level 2 AI IVR earlier, and one of these departments will transfer to that one. But maybe in this call flow, anytime there's a support op, you just want to go straight to that support SIP, and you don't want to add any more questioning because you know that it's just guaranteed to be a support opportunity. That's fine. So in this call flow, we're going to have the SIP URL be the support SIP URL, and we're not going to transfer that level 2 AI IVR. But in the sales department, we might want to transfer to the AI IVR we created earlier. And so when we finish pasting all these keywords in, we're going to talk about what to do with this transfer details. It will be different than the support one. So I'm going to paste in all these keywords for sales. So we've got a whole bunch of new keywords that we know generally lead to sales opportunities. I'm going to paste those in. And while I'm pasting it, I'm going to speed up my camera so you don't have to wait and watch. Okay, so these are the 22 sales keywords that we want to trigger a transfer to sales team. Now, bringing it back to the context of why we're doing this, we're not going to send this straight to the sales floor with live agents because maybe we want to add one more line of questioning. And just knowing that the context of like being pre-sales and that they've used these keywords in their answer, that might help the AI agent properly identify a potential sales opportunity. But again, live agents cost a lot of money, and you might want your your sale conversion rate to be higher. And so you might want to ask one more line of questioning, but this might be a good first step. So if they say to the AI agent that they want help with gaming, that might signal an opportunity to sell a fiber internet connection with a higher plan volume, right? Because they want to use it for streaming games. And that's fine. So it's a potential sales opportunity, but maybe you don't want to just send it straight to the sales. And so this is where we're going to actually send it to the other second AI IVR to ask if they're an existing customer. And if you remember, the phone number was a 209 number. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 209 number that actually transfers to another AI IVR we've made into the transfer line for anyone who fits the sales department. But the SIP URL is going to go for anyone in support. So these people won't be refiltered by another AI IVR and Pitchit. They're going to go straight to Spectrum support. But the sales department will go through another AI IVR and Pitchit before making it to the Spectrum sales team. So we're going to go to next step. And we're going to provision a phone number. And once this phone number is provisioned, this is basically the number that you would put on a marketing website or that you would send all of the call flows to, because it's the highest level AI IVR that you have. It's the very first question you want to ask everybody. And so this is actually the one you would transfer to. I'm again going to keep the schedule appointment option off because we don't want to schedule appointments. This is actually designed to just straight transfer someone. And then we're going to click create. Once it is created, you're going to receive the notification. It's going to take you back to the beginning. And so I'm just going to explain a brief overview one more time what we've just done here because it's a little complicated. We have created 2 levels of AI IVRs. The first one is a simple greeting, and then it asks what someone's calling about. If they fit into 2 different departments, support or sales, then they will be routed appropriately. And how we identified them as a support opportunity is through a series of keywords, as well as the contextual information we provided to the AI agent that this is for customer support and technical assistance. And so it's basically for people who are calling as current customers to ask for a support human being, right? And these are keywords that identify it. And then in sales, this is for people who want to set up service. This is pricing and questions about your product. And so these are the keywords for sales, etc., right? But what we've done is the support calls go straight to the Spectrum support team, and the sales calls lead back into the level 2 AI IVR, because we want to ask one more line of questioning. And in this line of questioning, we are just saying, thanks for your patience. I've just got one more question before transferring you to a live agent. And that question is, are you an existing customer? And we're going to identify if they're existing or not existing by their answer being true or false. So if they say yes or true or I'm an existing customer, then it's going to route to customer support. If they say no, I'm not an existing customer, or false or something similar, then it's going to route to the sales team, the actual live agents now. Now, the reason we're doing this in this particular call flow is maybe if the first level AI agent has identified that there's a sales opportunity from any of those keywords, maybe you could close 8% of those people. But if you ask one more question about them being an existing customer and you only route the people that are not existing customers, maybe those are like the slam dunk sales. So they're calling in to set up new internet service for gaming and they're not an existing customer. Maybe that's like a 20% close rate. But maybe the people that are existing customers calling in, maybe you only have like 5% close rate on them. And so if you're trying to leverage human labor in a way that's profitable, you might only want the slam dunk people making it to your sales floor. And so we've got the sales SIP trunk for non-existing customers, and then we've got the support SIP trunk for existing customers. And so long story short, what you've done is really just take a call flow of thousands of people at the first level, and you've cut it down to like 100, and then you've cut it down even further to like 50 that are not existing customers and sales opportunities. And those are the only ones that will make it to your live agent sales floor, and the rest will be routed to support. In other words, we've created an AI agent that can filter its own reasoning multiple times. And if you find that the conversion rate at your lowest level is still too low, then all you need to do is simply add another couple levels. And so you just keep asking more questions. And by the time you get to the bottom, it should be a higher and higher conversion rate based on your routing criteria. So in other words, that is effectively how you create an AI IVR on Pitchit. Thanks for watching.